The real purpose of the free press is to protect the people from the political class. But today, it operates to protect the political class from public scrutiny. And in doing so, it betrays its entire purpose. It betrays and even undermines democracy. It allows the powerful, corrupt elite to run roughshod over everything in society, because now there's no more skepticism. There's no one asking tough questions. There's no one demanding answers. There's no one demanding accountability. And now, thanks to the runaway leftist media, which is really the establishment state-run media at this point, politicians in power can lie endlessly and get away with the lies and make outlandish, ridiculous promises that they actually get elected for, and yet those turn out to be lies and no one is ever held accountable. The media has become complicit in this undermining of our republic. It has become, in essence, an enemy of America.
The press has created a rigged system. And
yes, there is some bias. Has some of it been not consistent with traditional journalistic
values? We'll go out there and smear right-wing politicians and attack, and you do not want to...
Saudi Arabia, where we are in Eastern Saudi Arabia.
Offer us the rest of our year's salary if we agreed not to talk about what Monsanto had done.
How about humanity and respect?
Well, how about documenting this for posterity?
Please, sir.
I rolled the camera. Don't touch my camera.
You care your future's being robbed. This is totally illegal, totally illegitimate. We haven't done
They're actually bankrolled by George Soros. They say they're pursuing truth, but then they brag about ruining people's careers.
So the real function of a free press is to function as another kind of check and balance against political corruption at the highest levels of government. A real press should ask the tough questions that government doesn't want asked. It's often said that if a journalist asking questions doesn't make that person feel uncomfortable, then it's not real journalism, it's just public relations. And so what we've seen now with 7.5 years of the Obama administration is nothing but a complicit media, really a lapdog media, just refusing to ask any legitimate questions about any of the real big issues, the traitor type of issues, the treason issues, like Obama paying $400 million plus in ransom money to Iran, and then giving Iran the ability to develop nuclear weapons that will undoubtedly be used to destabilize the Middle East or even nuke Israel, for that matter. This president has been an absolute criminal against America at every level. And the media has been 100% complicit with excusing his agenda, refusing to ask real questions, refusing to hold him accountable for anything. Remember the Obamacare promises? If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor? Or that health care was going to be $2,500 a year cheaper on average for American families?
We're going to work with your employer and lower premiums by $2,500 per family per year. We will do it by the end of my first term as President of the United States of America.
These were calculated lies because the Obamacare architects knew that they would never be held accountable, because they knew the complicit media would never go back and check reality against what was promised during the campaigns or what was promised during the Obamacare votes in Congress. They knew that there's no accountability today because the media is complicit. So this notion that people have of reporters being gumshoe investigators running around asking tough questions and finding the real story and exposing corruption in Washington, that's a fairy tale. It doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, it happened before. The free press used to actually do its job. Today, it doesn't happen at all. Today, the function of that press has been taken over by the independent media and organizations like WikiLeaks. If you think about it, WikiLeaks is actually engaged in real journalism, gathering information that the government doesn't want people to see, and then releasing that to the public. This is a crucial role in any free society. You have to have a free press run by individuals who are willing to go against the status quo, who are willing to ask questions that the government doesn't want you to ask, or that corporate interests don't want you to ask. If you're not asking questions that make people uncomfortable, you're not engaged in journalism. And there's no point in exercising so-called free speech if you're not going to use it to tell the truth, or expose the truth, or dig for the truth at least. If all you are is a puppet of the regime, which is what the entire mainstream media has become in America today, then you're not engaged in any kind of real journalism at all. You're not really the press. You are puppets. This is seditious activity. It's the kind of thing that KGB agents used to dream about doing during the Cold War. Well, their dream has come true, and it's called CNN. It's called MSNBC. They are carrying out the acts of sedition against America that the former Soviet Union could have only dreamed of carrying out. They are systematically disassembling this nation, one issue at a time, by attacking history, by attacking opposition to government corruption, by attacking independent media, by attacking election candidates who dare to tell the truth about anything. If you stand up and tell the truth, you are immediately labeled a racist, a bigot, a homophobe. It doesn't matter. I mean, look at Donald Trump. He doesn't have anything against gay people. He doesn't have anything against legal immigrants.
You know what the backbone of our country? People that came here, and they came here legally. People that came to this country legally, and they worked their ass off, and they've made the country great. That's the backbone. That's the backbone.
And yet he is systematically lied about and destroyed, or at least attempted to be destroyed, through name-calling and false reporting and smear campaigns carried out by a media that has abandoned any idea of unbiased journalism or objective reporting. They don't even pretend. They are willing to lie and cheat and rig the system and present disinfo to the public. The media ignores all the things that you need to know and then highlights all the things that they want you to believe, even though they're completely false. And so what used to be the free press in America has really now just become a tool of disinformation to serve corporate and government interests. And that's it. There's nothing more to it. People who go to journalism school and they come out of journalism school in order to work for CNN or to work for MSNBC, they have to immediately abandon every ethic that they learned in journalism school. They have to abandon any notion of being an intelligent, skeptical, objective reporter. And they have to, in essence, surrender these ideas and sign up to the obedience training of a complicit leftist media that is at every level anti-American. If you look closely at the agenda of the leftist media, it is to promote partial birth abortions. It is to deny the existence of radical Islamic terrorism. It is to promote the mass vaccination of children with mercury-containing flu shots that cause brain damage and cause autism, to cover up all of that evidence, to cover up that fact. When Dr. William Thompson, a CDC scientist, went public with his admission that he and his colleagues at the CDC deliberately took part in the covering up of evidence linking vaccination to autism in young African American boys, a memo went out to the entire mainstream media. And that memo said, "You shall not cover this story. It does not exist. You don't mention Dr. William Thompson. You don't mention autism, mercury, flu shots, vaccines, and African Americans. You do not mention this story one bit." And there was an obedient 100% blackout of this news story across the entire media. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning story, potentially, to cover that. And yet, every single media organization agreed to cover up that story and to avoid reporting on it. Why? The answer is they were ordered to bury it. And if they can do it with that story, they can do it with any story. And they have. If you look at alternative cancer doctors like Dr. Stanislaw Brzezinski and his breakthroughs that could save literally maybe hundreds of thousands of lives a year in America alone, why is he viciously attacked and maligned instead of embraced as a pioneer? Why are his innovations not amplified through the media? Well, the answer is because the cancer industry is very, very profitable, and the media receives income from powerful cancer groups and cancer organizations that frankly depend on more cancer victims for their profits. It's a revenue model. It shouldn't be surprising. It's not a conspiracy. It's their business model. They need more cancer patients to make money off cancer, and so the media is their lapdog. The media does what the corporations want them to do. So it's really only the independent media, the alternative media, that is telling the truth on any of these topics today. You know, organizations like Breitbart.com, NaturalNews, of course, my website. You've got on the political spectrum, you've got Infowars.com. We are the independent media, and we are, frankly, the only remaining real press in America. Everything else is fictitious media. But when you get to the independent media, you find people who are independent thinkers, critical thinkers, who are passionate about what they do, and they don't pretend to be completely neutral. That's a delusion. It's a fairy tale. There's no such thing as a human being who is 100% objective. Being human is a subjective experience, and so when humans report the news, it is always subjective. In the stories that you choose to report or choose to ignore, or the way you choose to translate news, is a subjective experience. And when media organizations pretend to be objective and not have their opinions as part of the story, they're really lying to you. In reality, you can't report the news without translating it through your experience, knowledge, wisdom, and cultural belief system. So it's only in the independent media that you actually get people telling the truth. And so you see the personalities come out, you know. You see like Milo Yiannopoulos at Breitbart.com.
No, I'm talking about culture, not race, and it's typical of someone like the BBC to try to conflate the two, because what they want to do, what they want to do is to suggest that if you're proud of your country and the ideals on which your country is founded, that somehow makes you a racist. It doesn't. I'm not talking about skin color. I don't care about skin color. All my boyfriends are black. I don't give a toss about skin color. What I do care about is values and ideas.
But you've got other people also. You've got like Alex Jones at Infowars. You know, he really portrays the archetype of righteous indignation. You know, he's almost belligerent.
We have an idiot on the program today. Coming up in just 20 minutes.
You will not stop the republic. Humanity is awakening.
He expresses the full range of emotions, but you know what? It's not an act. That's the difference. You know, you've got somebody on CNN reading a teleprompter and pretending to be outraged because they've blamed Trump for something that he didn't do, and they're feigning their outrage. That's all fake. That's all theater. At least when you're watching, you know, Alex Jones, it's all real. That's genuinely him. I mean, I know. I used to be the substitute host for Infowars for a couple of years, and you can go around the independent media and you find, you know, Greg Hunter, for example, on the Financial News, or Gerald Celente. You've got the personalities that come across. You know, Michael Savage. He's fed up and tired of the stupidity in society, and he's no longer interested in being polite. He's just going to say it like it is, and that's actually refreshing. You know, Donald Trump is kind of that way too. It's actually refreshing. That's why he has such a wide base of support.
Political, presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
You know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country, and if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
In each of these cases in the independent media, you've got personalities who are willing to come out and say what they believe and express that authentically. And that's what a free press really should be. In a free press, you should be free to express what you really believe. And in order to shut this down, you've got internet gatekeepers like Google News or Yahoo News, Facebook or Twitter. And their role in this fascist society is to shut down the voices that they don't want to allow to reach the people. You'll have your Twitter account shut down like what happened to Milo. Just because your followers got a little aggressive with somebody else. Milo himself didn't violate anything, and yet he was kicked off of Twitter. That function of censorship or bullying or intimidation is designed to shut down all the voices that are countering the false narratives of the fake, controlled, state-run media. And it's through this combination of false narratives and censorship of the truth that they're able to maintain some level of manipulation of the minds of the people. But this also explains why ultimately they will fail in this attempt to control society, because fundamentally people don't want to be enslaved. People are hungry for the truth. People are hungry for freedom. People are smarter than the media gives them credit for. People can connect the dots. You talk about Hillary Clinton and Clinton Cash and how they scammed millions of dollars out of the Haiti rescue funds, how they sold out uranium, a very important strategic natural resource, to Russian mining companies. People can connect the dots. Look at all the people who are dead now who had the goods on the Clintons. Look at the dead DNC staffers. I think three people tied to the DNC are now dead just recently, and one of them was about to go public with even more damning information about Hillary Clinton and the leaders of the DNC. Why are all these people dead? The public can connect the dots. People are smarter than you think. And there's also a subculture in society, for example, the anonymous group, who are in fact extremely intelligent individuals who are in many ways really the most critical, the most pioneering thinkers of revolution, who are going to, I believe, play actually quite a pivotal role in the changing of this current society to the next society that rises following the collapse of this current system. There are elements out there who are not part of the status quo and who are not part of the mainstream media, who are extremely motivated, extremely intelligent, extremely capable from a technical point of view. And they know exactly how to move information around or acquire information and get it into the hands of people like Julian Assange through WikiLeaks, or sort of the Edward Snowdens of the world as well. You've got people out there who are experts in encryption systems that the government absolutely cannot decode, short of having a quantum computer. There are channels right now still in existence for people to get information out that can actually bring down the corrupt regime that currently controls, in a very fragile way, controls our society and the people in it. The future is a future where information consumers are more informed and more discerning and demand greater transparency, and are much harder for media giants to trick or hoodwink into believing their false lives and narratives. You might even call it asymmetric information warfare. And what that means is that a very small number of individuals can, in effect, defeat a much larger and much more well-funded, much more capable information enemy in the info battlefield, if you will, because of the velocity of shared information through social media primarily. Information now moves at the speed of thought, no longer the speed of printing newspapers or the speed of delivering the mail, a newsletter in the mail or a magazine in the mail. Information moves at the speed of thought. And so one person who is connected to the right information source can expose and bring down an entire government regime, or can destroy a corrupt individual like Hillary Clinton, or can change the course of history. And these are the kinds of outcomes that used to be the sole domain of the mainstream media. This is the kind of thing that the Washington Post did. But now the real domain of power, of information power, rests with independent media. And the structure of all of us in the independent media is exactly what it should be. None of us are controlled by a central source. None of us are given marching orders like the mainstream media is. We don't get memos that tell us what to say, what to report, what to think. We're not financially controlled by corporations or governments or government grants. We are actually a distributed network of passionate individuals who want to make a positive change in the world. And we are, in effect, tearing down the illusion, the theatrics of false journalism that is the fake mainstream media. Many people might watch CNN, but they watch it as a form of entertainment. They immediately discount everything they hear. You know, when the media reports, oh, Donald Trump is threatening to assassinate Hillary Clinton, everybody knows it's a fabrication. It's hard to fool people when your own institution is so ridiculous and pathetic that you can't even pretend to be engaged in objective journalism. And that's the mainstream media.
You're awake, by the way. You're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead and you haven't gone to hell. This is your life now. This is our election now. This is us. This is our country. It's real.
You're never going to see a day where every single independent media website reports the exact same thing. But you will see days like that again and again in the mainstream media, where they're reporting literally word for word the exact same thing, same script, reading the same teleprompters. You'll find TV news stations, 20, 30, 40 of them across the country, telling you the exact same words in the evening news, literally word for word, because they all got the memo.
And welcome back to the show. I scream, you scream. You know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest.
I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, you know the rest. Well, I scream, you scream, you know the rest. I scream, you scream, well, you know the rest.
That right there is proof that it's all rigged, that it's all theater. You won't find that in the independent media because it's all independent voices, and you may or may not agree with those voices, or you may agree sometimes and not other times, and that's the way it should be. That's called diversity. You know, that's real diversity. You know, it's always funny to me that the political left and the leftist media screams and bullies people and says, you don't like diversity. And what they mean by diversity is just skin color, but they actually demand cognitive obedience. They don't want thought diversity. What they want is a room full of people with different skin color who all have the same mental obedience to the exact same monotonous ideas, and they call that diversity. It's not, it's a joke, it's brainwashing, it's social engineering. Real diversity is a room full of people who all have different ideas, different experiences, different translations of what they're witnessing and seeing. And they have real legitimate questions about what's going on in the world around them. And the skin color is irrelevant. What matters is the color of their ideas. What matters is the nature of their thoughts and their beliefs and their ability to ask questions from different points of view. And you only get that from the independent media. Every economic idea being pushed by the leftist media is an absolute disaster. You look at the effects of these economic policies after they've been applied for decades, and you get cities like Detroit, which frankly at this point resembles a third world nation. That is leftist economic policy in action, with no critical thinking and no honest reporting and no real journalism taking place. It's corruption, it's government waste, it's high taxation, it's social engineering, it's brainwashing, false narratives, the whole bit. That's what they want. And if they are allowed to stay in power, then you're going to get the whole nation looking like Detroit. You're going to have a nationwide economic collapse, mass poverty, people out of work everywhere, and a ruling elite that is protected by the complicit media. So where do we go with all this? At some point, you have to arrest seditious traitors who are deliberately attempting to undermine America and violate law or undermine the rule of law. If you allow that to continue, you get North Korea or you get China. You get these nations that are engaged in horrific human rights abuses, mass executions of political enemies. In China, you've got organ harvesting of targeted political prisoners. Anyone who speaks out against the Chinese regime is disappeared, and maybe their organs are harvested, or maybe they're executed. This is real. This is actually happening. This is really where the political left is headed if we don't stop these crimes against America. So you either go down that road of totalitarianism, or you bring a power structure into place that adores democracy and respects liberty. And if we had a Department of Justice with individuals who were willing to carry out law in the protection of America and the protection of democracy and the protection of liberty, then they could indeed make arrests of the worst offenders who are in fact enemies of America. The bottom line for individuals is that you should never believe anything you hear in the mainstream media. It is either a fabrication or it is a distraction to prevent you from seeing something that is very important for you to see. They're largely engaged in covering up the real news that you need to learn while feeding you fake news or fake distractions so that you don't think about anything else. The most terrifying thing to every totalitarian, dictatorial society is an informed, awake, critical thinking individual, someone who is self-sufficient, someone who is intelligent, someone who can ask legitimate questions. Individuals who are intelligent are a great threat to every police state, every corrupt regime. In a society where you're not allowed to express freedom of speech, or you're not allowed to ask tough, even demanding questions of your government, that society is not a free society. It's a police state. Remember ultimately that government is supposed to be the servant of the people, and that the powers of government are derived from the people. The people grant limited powers to government to carry out certain functions that have a common benefit to society. The day that government forgets its role and forgets to be humble and forgets to serve the people and starts demanding to rule over the people, that's the day that you better damn well have a free press, because you better be willing to ask some tough questions, demand some real answers, and if necessary, call for popular revolt to vote people out of office, to, if necessary, toss them out of office, to march in the streets, to take back your country, to take back your democracy, to exercise your free speech rights, and use that First Amendment to defend what our founding fathers fought for. America is the first society in history where an individual could come to America and write his or her own life script. And in that way, America is worth defending. And if we have to defend America against enemies in the media who are deliberately attempting to undermine America, then that is what we, the people, must eventually resolve to do. And I think that right now we're close to that moment in history. I think the population is fed up. I think most people have had enough of the lies and the disinformation. If people feel like their nation has been stolen from them and the press has been rigged and the government is actively working against them and it considers intelligent, informed Americans to be now enemies of the state, then there are very few options left for defending yourself against tyranny. And that's where I think probably this is headed. And this point underscores the importance of the independent media, the WikiLeaks of the world, the NaturalNews organizations, the InfoWars organizations. All of these independent media outlets like Breitbart are really the last hope for a free press that can keep people informed enough that they may have an opportunity to stop the totalitarians from seizing power and stop America from being destroyed by a deliberate campaign of overthrowing society from within. And it is people like Anderson Cooper, Wolf Blitzer, Andrea Mitchell, and so on, who are the traitors to America. They are deliberately well along in their efforts to overthrow America, and sooner or later you have to stop them. If you'd like to help support this video and other videos like this, visit healthrangerstore.com, where everything we sell is laboratory tested for heavy metals and more. You'll find superfoods, storable survival foods, nutritional supplements, and a full line of synthetic chemical-free body soaps, shampoos, and oral care products. Everything we sell is non-GMO, and it's all completely free of chemical sweeteners, artificial colors, hydrogenated oils, and other toxic ingredients that you want to avoid. Find all this and much more at healthrangerstore.com.